Welcome to your Applied Doctoral Project or Dissertation in Practice, Section 3. In this video segment, we will be focusing on how to present your findings for your doctoral project or dissertation in practice. In this segment of Section 3, provide an introduction in which you restate the purpose and the problem statements from Section 1. Then present the organization of Section 3 in a clear and structured format. Let the reader know what information you will be presenting in the section and in what order. Briefly state any limitations of the study that may influence the interpretation of the results. For example, if your study was limited to a specific geographic location and that might affect the interpretation of the results, be sure to state that here. This will help to prepare your reader for what to expect as they move forward in reading Section 3. The findings for your doctoral project or dissertation in practice should be presented in a clear format. Begin with a discussion of the participant demographic characteristics. Make sure that you do not provide any identifying information. The data should be de-identified. Organize your presentation of the findings by the questions or hypotheses that they correspond to. Remember to present the findings objectively. Do not interpret or speculate about the meaning of the findings, just report them. In Section 3, you are bringing your results together with the information from the prior sections. So make sure to discuss each finding in relation to the theoretical or conceptual framework that you presented previously to frame your study. The findings should be aligned with the problem, purpose, and need. Be sure to make the connection between the findings and the literature. Qualitative studies must establish the 4 criteria of trustworthiness, which are noted here. Quantitative studies will need to explain the assumptions of any statistical tests and identify any factors that might have impacted the interpretation of the findings. The reliability and validity of the instruments will need to be discussed. Mixed method studies should include the elements noted for both qualitative and quantitative studies. In this subsection, you will present your discussion of the outcomes that pertain to your findings. Begin by organizing the discussion by research questions or hypotheses. Evaluate how well the findings address the problem and the purpose. Discuss how well the findings contributed to the existing literature and theoretical or conceptual framework that were described in Section 1. Then explain how the results align with the literature from Section 1, including the theoretical or conceptual framework. Were they consistent with the literature? Were there any inconsistencies? Provide an explanation for any unexpected results. In this subsection, the focus is on the conclusions that can be drawn from the study findings. It is important to remain consistent with the focus and scope of your study. Do not overstate the results of your study or draw generalizations or conclusions beyond the scope of your study. Stick with the findings of your study and what can be determined from them. Then provide recommendations for how the study's findings can be applied to educational practice. What would you like for schools or educators to do with the information that was obtained through your study? How might it be applied to the field? Support all recommendations with at least one finding from your study and the literature. Each study provides new insight into a topic, but no study offers a complete picture of an issue. Rather, the study sets the stage for more research to be conducted. Just as your doctoral project or dissertation in practice was based upon the existing literature, your work will now become work that other researchers will likely base their future research on. In this subsection, it is time to make recommendations for what those future studies or projects should be. Reflect on the theoretical or conceptual framework, findings, and implications for your study, then state recommendations for future studies or projects. Discuss the limitations of your study and state ideas for how other researchers might address those limitations. For example, perhaps your project was limited to a particular geographic location, and other researchers might build upon the research by examining the topic in a larger or different geographic location. State the next steps that should be taken to further research on the topic, and support those statements with literature from Section 2. Once again, remain consistent with the scope of your study. In the conclusion subsection, state any conclusions that you arrived at in completing this project or dissertation in practice. Discuss the problem that was addressed, the importance of addressing the problem, and the impact of addressing the problem. Include the main message of the study and summarize the study recommendations. Think of this as the major social change piece of your study. What is it that readers really need to know in reviewing your study? As with any graduate level writing project, scholarly writing is expected throughout the project. As a student, you have several writing and APA style resources available to you through the Academic Success Center. You also have library resources available through the library. Be sure to use these resources. Follow the templates and proofread your documents carefully. Check your references and citations frequently for accuracy. Thank you for reviewing this video on Section 3 of the Applied Doctoral Experience or Dissertation and Practice series. Be sure to use the resources that are available to you through the Applied Doctoral Experience Center and consult your chair with any questions that you have about your ADE process.